The coastal village of Dunmere clung to the cliffs like a secret trying not to be forgotten. With only 37 residents and no road signs leading in, it was the kind of place the world overlooked, and perhaps for good reason. Fog drifted in like spilled milk from the sea, blanketing the crumbled stone cottages and tangled footpaths in a silent hush. Boats never docked twice, and those who did arrive rarely stayed long. The villagers offered stiff smiles and parted words, and there was an unspoken rule that no one asked about the house at the edge, the one with the black shutters sealed like eyes refusing to wake. Olivia didn't know that when she came. She had only followed the warbled voice from her grandmother's dying breaths. The sea remembers. Dunmere knows. No one greeted her when she arrived. The bus, driven by a hunched man who never made eye contact, left her on a gravel shoulder flanked by brittle hedges. Olivia hoisted her worn suitcase and followed the winding trail toward the village, the only sound her footsteps and the low cry of distant gulls who never seemed to land. The air tasted of brine and iron, as if something below the waves had bled for centuries and still wasn't done. Her destination, the house with the black shutters, stood apart from the rest, as if in quarantine. The keys were in the mailbox, just as her grandmother's letter had said. Inside, the place sighed with age and soot. Dust clung to every surface like fine ash, yet on the fireplace mantel, a fresh daisy in a chipped vase refused to wilt. That night, the silence pressed too hard. Olivia awoke to faint scratching, like claws dragging behind the wallpaper. Her ears strained in the darkness as the house settled, but this was different, rhythmic, searching. She crept into the narrow hallway, the floorboards groaning with each step. Shadows warped strangely along the walls, even though her lantern burned still. At the far end sat a mirror, tall and fogged with what looked like breath. She hadn't remembered a mirror there before. Her reflection stood oddly stiff, her eyes just too wide, lips parting a second off her own. She stared until the breath caught in her throat and broke the spell. The mirror was empty when she blinked. By morning, the village had changed. The cliffs seemed closer, the sea louder. The butcher shop, where she'd seen a faded open sign the day before, now had no windows. The pub's crooked door was bolted shut. She wandered the cobblestones and asked a woman hanging laundry where the post office was, but the woman stared right through her and went back to pinning bedsheets with trembling fingers. At the square, a boy drew with chalk, spirals and fish with too many eyes. He looked up once at Olivia and whispered, "You're not supposed to be in the house." Not yet. Then he smeared the drawing out with his palm until it became only gray dust. Back at the house, she found footprints on the kitchen tiles that weren't hers, bare feet, damp and leading from the back door to the stairwell. She followed them, carefully, heart knocking like it sought escape from her ribs. Each step upward felt heavier, as if gravity thickened. On the second floor, the hall was colder. She opened each door slowly, revealing nothing more than empty rooms, a collapsed ceiling, a pale doll missing its eyes. The last door was locked. Olivia pressed her ear against it and heard waves. Close, wrong. The sea shouldn't sound like that from upstairs. She stepped back and noticed something etched into the wood below the knob. Only memory can turn the key. In the days that followed, sleep eluded her. She caught glimpses of legs vanishing around corners, pages turning without wind, once even her own voice saying her name from beneath the floorboards. The town's silence grew heavier, more deliberate. She began to lose time. Hours vanished. Once, she sat down to tie her shoe, and when she stood, the light had changed and her dinner plate had rotted through. On a whim, she visited the village cemetery, a tangled croft of leaning stones and silence. Her legs gave out when she found it, her name, carved in graying granite, next to a date that was still a month away. That night, she stood before the locked door again. Beneath her breath, she whispered what fragments she remembered, of her grandmother's lullabies, of the smell of seaweed in her childhood hair, of the last time she had felt truly alone. The door clicked and eased open. The room beyond was unlike the rest of the house, pristine, untouched, lit with a soft gray light from no visible source. In the center stood a table, and on it lay a second daisy, wilting. As she stepped in, the door closed behind her with a sound like a held breath releasing. And from inside the mirror across the room, her reflection smiled. Only her reflection. Olivia had not